The stars were cold and empty, just like they had always been. Captain Cora stared out of the main window of her ship, the stellar dawn. Beyond the thick glass, space stretched out like a black ocean, with tiny lights scattered across it. She had been looking at this same view for 20 years, and it never changed. Always the same empty darkness. "Captain, we're approaching the Sol system," said Tom, her navigation officer. He was young for his species, with bright blue skin and large eyes that could see far into space. "Should we begin the standard survey?" Cora nodded. "Yes. Start scanning. All the planets, look for minerals, gases, anything useful." She paused and looked around the bridge. "And keep watching for signs of life, even though we know we won't find any." The stellar dawn was home to 15 crew members from different species. All of them were part of the Helix Coalition, a group of 7 alien races who had been traveling through space together for over 1,000 years. They were explorers, scientists, and dreamers who wanted to map every corner of the galaxy. But in all their travels, they had never found another intelligent species. The galaxy was huge, with billions of stars and planets, but it seemed like they were the only ones smart enough to build spaceships and explore the cosmos. Dr. Vale was sitting at her science station, looking at data from their sensors. She was the ship's expert on alien life, even though she had never actually found any aliens. Her job was to look for signs of other civilizations, radio signals, unusual energy patterns, anything that might mean intelligent life existed somewhere else. "The same as always," she said quietly to herself. "Nothing but rocks and gas." Vale had gray skin and 4 arms, which made her very good at operating multiple computers at once. She had spent her whole career hoping to find proof that other smart beings existed in the universe. Every day she checked thousands of signals from space, but they were always just natural sounds from stars and planets. "Doctor, are you finding anything interesting?" asked Captain Cora. "No, Captain. Just the usual cosmic background radiation and some solar flares from the local star." Vale's voice sounded tired. She had given the same report thousands of times. Before, the Helix Coalition had 7 different species working together. There were the Tal people like Captain Cora, who were tall and thin with silver skin. The Bix like Tom were short and blue with big eyes. Vale's people, the Gren, had 4 arms and were very smart. There were also the Vor, who looked like walking trees, the Kep, who were covered in fur, the Nell, who could breathe underwater, and the Zil, who were very small but could fly. All 7 species had met each other long ago and decided to work together instead of fighting. They shared their knowledge, their technology, and their ships. Together they had built a peaceful civilization that spread across hundreds of star systems. But they had one big problem. They were alone. "It doesn't make sense," said Vale, speaking to her assistant, a young Bix named Ray. "The galaxy is so big with so many planets that could support life. Mathematical probability says there should be other intelligent species out there." Ray nodded as he helped organize the data. "Maybe we're just looking in the wrong places." "We've, been looking everywhere for 1,000 years, Vale replied. "We've visited over 50,000 star systems. We found plenty of simple life. Plants, animals, even some smart creatures like dolphins and elephants. But nothing that builds cities or spaceships." The truth was that the coalition had grown comfortable being alone. Their technology was focused on exploration and science, not on war or defense. They had a few small patrol ships to protect their mining operations from asteroids and space pirates, but they didn't have a real military. Why would they need one? There was no one to fight. "Captain," called Nix from the communication station. "I'm picking up some unusual readings from the 3rd planet in this system." Nix was a Kep, covered in soft brown fur with sensitive ears that could hear radio signals from very far away. He was the best communication officer in the Coalition fleet. Captain Cora walked over to his station. "What kind of readings?" "Well, that's the strange part. They look like organized transmissions. Not natural phenomena, but actual signals with patterns and structure." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Nix. "Are you sure?" asked Dr. Vale, her 4 arms moving quickly across her computer controls. "I'm running the analysis now," Nix said. his ears twitching with concentration. The signals are primitive compared to our technology, but they're definitely artificial. Someone is broadcasting from that planet. Dr. Vale's computers began showing the data. On her screens, wave patterns moved up and down in clear, organized sequences. These weren't random sounds from nature. These were messages created by intelligent beings. "This is impossible," whispered Tom. Captain Cora felt her heart beating faster. In 1,000 years of exploration, this was the moment every coalition member had dreamed about. First contact with another intelligent species. "How advanced are they?" she asked. Vale studied the signals carefully. "Based on the frequency and power levels, I'd say they're in the early stages of technological development. Maybe similar to where we were 2,000 years ago. They have radio, probably some space technology, but nothing close to interstellar travel." "What should we do?" asked Ray. This was the question that would change everything. The coalition had protocols for this situation, but they had never expected to actually use them. They had rules about how to approach a new species, how to study them, and whether to make contact. "First, we observe," said Captain Cora. "We need to learn about these beings before we make any decisions. Move the ship to a safe distance and begin long-range scanning. I want to know everything about them. Their technology, their society, their biology." "Should we report this to Coalition Command?" asked Tom. "Not yet. Let's gather more information first. This is too important to rush." As the stellar dawn moved closer to the third planet, their sensors began picking up more details. The planet was mostly blue and green, covered with water and land. The atmosphere contained oxygen and nitrogen, perfect for supporting life. "I'm detecting multiple energy sources across the planet's surface," reported Vale. "Large cities, industrial areas, and what looks like primitive spacecraft in orbit around the planet." The crew gathered around the main viewing screen as images of the planet appeared. They could see continents, oceans, and clouds. In the dark areas where it was night, thousands of small lights showed where cities were located. "They call their planet Earth," said Nix, who had been listening to their radio transmissions. "And they call themselves humans." Dr. Vale was practically shaking with excitement. After decades of searching, she had finally found what she was looking for: another intelligent species. But as she studied the human transmissions more carefully, she began to notice something troubling. Many of the signals were about conflict, wars, weapons, fighting between different groups of humans. "Captain," she said slowly, "I think we need to be very careful with these humans. Their entire history seems to be filled with violence and warfare. They're constantly fighting each other." Captain Cora looked at the peaceful planet spinning below them. It was hard to believe that such a beautiful world could be home to a violent species. "We'll study them from a distance," she decided. "We need to understand what kind of beings they are before we make contact. Set up a hidden observation post in the asteroid belt. We'll watch and learn." As the stellar dawn moved to its hiding place, none of the crew could have imagined what was coming. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the cold darkness between stars, ancient sensors had detected their presence. The humans were not the only ones who had been discovered that day. Something else was watching, something that had been waiting, in the void for civilizations to mature. And now it was time to harvest what had grown. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes being alone was safer than being found. The news spread through Coalition space like wildfire. Within hours of Captain Cora's report, every major world in the Helix Coalition knew about the discovery of Earth. Emergency meetings were called on 7 different planets as leaders tried to decide what to do about the humans. Dr. Vale sat in the observation deck of their hidden base in Earth's asteroid belt, watching the blue planet spin slowly in the distance. For 3 weeks now, she had been studying human society through their radio and television signals. What she found both amazed and worried her. "They're incredible," she told her research team. "In just a few thousand years, they've gone from using stone tools to splitting atoms. Their rate of technological advancement is unlike anything we've ever seen." Ray, her young assistant, was looking at data about human history. But they're so violent, Doctor. Look at this. They've had over 15,000 wars in their recorded history. They've invented weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Vale nodded sadly. This was the problem that kept the coalition leaders awake at night. Humans were clearly intelligent and creative, but they were also dangerous. Every advancement they made seemed to lead to new ways of fighting each other. "Captain," called Tom from the communication station, "we're receiving an urgent message from Coalition Command." Captain Cora walked over and activated the secure channel. The face of Admiral Rex appeared on the screen. He was an old towel with silver hair and worried eyes. "Captain Cora," the Admiral said, "the Council has made their decision about the humans. You are ordered to maintain observation only. Under no circumstances are you to make contact with this species." "Sir, with respect, I think we should consider peaceful contact. They could be valuable allies." Admiral Rex shook his head. "Have you seen their military capabilities? They have enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet 10 times over. These beings are too dangerous to approach. We will continue to study them from a distance until the Council decides their fate." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Dr. Vale felt her heart sink. She had spent her life searching for other intelligent life, and now that she had found it, the Coalition was too afraid to say hello. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, something was going wrong. Marcus Reed was supposed to be having the best day of his career. The former Marine had worked for years to become an astronaut, and today he was on a solo mission to repair a broken communications satellite. It was routine work, but Marcus loved being alone in space, looking down at his home planet. But then his ship's engine made a sound it wasn't supposed to make. "Control, this is Reed," he said into his radio. "I'm showing engine failure, attempting restart." The restart didn't work. Neither did the backup systems. Marcus tried everything he could think of, but his small spacecraft was dead in the water. Worse, he was slowly drifting away from Earth's orbit. "Control, I have a problem. All systems are down and I'm losing orbit. Request immediate rescue mission." "Copy that, Reed. We're working on it, but the nearest rescue ship is 6 hours away. Can you maintain life support that long?" Marcus checked his instruments. "Negative. I've got maybe 3 hours of air left." From their hidden base in the asteroid belt, Dr. Vale watched the humans' predicament unfold. The Coalition sensors were much better than Earth's technology, so they could see exactly what was happening to Marcus Reed. His ship's power core is failing, she reported to Captain Cora. At current drift rate, he'll be too far from Earth for rescue in 2 hours. "That's unfortunate," said the captain. "But it's not our problem. We have orders not to interfere." But Dr. Vale couldn't just watch a sentient being die. She had spent her career studying life in all its forms, and she couldn't stand by while someone died when she had the power to help. "Captain, we could save him easily. A simple tractor beam pull, bring him aboard, then return him to Earth's orbit. No one would ever know." "Absolutely not." Admiral Rex was very clear. Dr. Vale spent the next hour watching Marcus Reed try to fix his ship. The human showed remarkable calmness and problem-solving skills, even though he knew he was probably going to die. He kept working, kept trying different solutions, never giving up hope. This impressed Vale more than all the human wars and weapons. This one man alone in the darkness facing death with courage and determination. This was the kind of being she wanted to meet. "Captain," she said quietly, "I'm going to save him." "Doctor, I order you not to." But Vale was already moving. She ran to the shuttle bay, started up a small rescue ship, and launched before anyone could stop her. Her forearms moved quickly across the controls as she flew toward the dying human spacecraft. Marcus Reed was down to his last 30 minutes of air when something impossible happened. A ship appeared next to him, but it wasn't from Earth. It was sleek and silver, with technology he had never seen before. A gentle blue beam surrounded his ship and began pulling him toward the strange vessel. Marcus tried to call Earth on his radio, but the signal was being blocked somehow. "Unknown ship, this is astronaut Marcus Reed. Please identify yourself." A voice answered him, speaking perfect English but with an accent he couldn't place. "Human Marcus Reed, you are in danger. We are bringing you aboard our vessel to save your life." Please do not be afraid." The next few minutes were like a dream. Marcus's ship was pulled into a cargo bay that was much larger than it should have been. The air around him shimmered as some kind of force field kept the atmosphere inside. When the bay doors closed, Marcus opened his ship's hatch and stepped out onto an alien spacecraft. Dr. Vale was waiting for him. She was nervous. This was the first time anyone in the coalition had met a human face-to-face. Marcus was taller than she expected, with dark skin and intelligent eyes that showed surprise but not panic. "You're not human," Marcus said simply. "No, I am not. My name is Dr. Vale. I am from a species called the Gren, and I am part of an alliance called the Helix Coalition. We have been watching your planet." Marcus looked around the cargo bay, taking in the advanced technology. "How long have you been watching us?" "Only a few weeks since we discovered your signals. But Marcus Reed, I must tell you something important. My people are afraid of your species." "Afraid of us? Why?" Vale's forearms moved nervously. "Because humans are warriors. Your entire history is filled with conflict and violence. My people are peaceful explorers, and they think humans are too dangerous to contact." Marcus was quiet, for a moment thinking about this. "And yet you saved my life." "Yes, because I believe there is more to humanity than just violence. I have been studying your culture, your art, your science. You are capable of great beauty and kindness too." Captain Cora's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Dr. Vale, return to base immediately. You have violated direct orders." Vale looked at Marcus apologetically. "I have to take you back to Earth's orbit. My captain is very angry with me." As they flew back toward Earth, Marcus asked hundreds of questions about the Coalition, their technology, and their travels through the galaxy. Vale was impressed by how quickly he understood complex concepts and how curious he was about everything. "Your species learns very fast," she observed. "We have to," Marcus replied. "On Earth, if you don't adapt quickly, you die. That's probably why we seem so violent to you. We've had to fight to survive for millions of years." When they reached Earth's orbit, Vale prepared to transfer Marcus back to his repaired ship. But before he left, he turned to her with a serious expression. "Dr. Vale, I need to ask you something important. Are there other species out there besides yours? Other threats we should know about?" Vale hesitated. According to Coalition protocols, she shouldn't share this information. But something in Marcus's eyes told her this was important. "The galaxy is very large, Marcus Reed. My people have explored much of it, but not all. There are always unknown regions." Marcus nodded slowly. "If something dangerous ever comes to Earth, will your people help us?" "I don't know," Vale admitted, "but I hope so." As Marcus returned to his ship and flew back to Earth, both he and Vale knew that something important had changed. First contact had happened, even if it was unofficial. But neither of them knew that, far out in the dark space between galaxies, ancient sensors had detected the Coalition's presence near Earth. Something old and hungry was already moving toward them, traveling at speeds that should have been impossible. The quiet galaxy was about to become very loud indeed. The first warning came from the edge of Coalition space, where the galaxy ended and endless darkness began. Captain Cora was reviewing Dr. Vale's report about her meeting with the human Marcus Reed when the emergency signal arrived. The message was short and terrifying. "Unknown fleet approaching. Massive energy signatures. Request immediate assistance." Then the signal went dead. "Tom, set course for the outer rim immediately," ordered Captain Cora. "Maximum speed." The Stellar Dawn jumped to hyperspace, but they were too late. When they arrived at the last known position of the research station, they found only debris floating in space. Twisted metal and burned fragments were all that remained of a facility that had housed 300 Coalition scientists. "Captain," said Nix, his fur standing on end as he monitored the communication frequencies. "I'm picking up a transmission. It's not Coalition code." The main screen activated, showing a figure that made everyone on the bridge step backward. The being was tall and covered in dark metal armor. Its face was hidden behind a mask that glowed with red light. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "People of this galaxy, You have lived in ignorance for too long. We are the Dominion, and we have returned to claim what is ours. You have grown soft and weak during our absence. Now you will submit or you will be removed. The transmission showed images of massive ships, each one larger than an entire coalition city. They moved through space like dark shadows, their hulls absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Weapons that could destroy planets hung from their sides like the claws of some giant beast. Submit within one standard cycle, or face extinction. This is your only warning. The screen went black, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Dr. Vale was the first to speak. How is this possible? We've mapped the entire galaxy. Where did they come from? The void between galaxies, said Captain Cora quietly. They've been hiding in the darkness, watching us grow and develop. Now they think we're ready to be harvested. Within hours, more Coalition worlds fell silent. The Dominion fleet moved through space faster than anything the Coalition had ever seen, striking without warning and leaving nothing but destruction behind. Admiral Rex called an emergency meeting of all Coalition captains. His image appeared on screens throughout the fleet, but he looked older and more tired than anyone had ever seen him. The situation is worse than we thought, he began. The enemy fleet numbers in the thousands. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. They're using weapons and propulsion systems that our scientists say should be impossible. Captain Cora raised her hand. What about our military forces? Surely we can mount some kind of defense. The Admiral's expression grew even more grim. We have 200 patrol ships scattered across 700 star systems. The enemy has 3,000 warships, each one more powerful than our entire fleet combined. They're not just more advanced. They're built for conquest. Dr. Vale watched the tactical displays in horror. Red markers showed Dominion forces advancing through Coalition space like a plague. Every few hours another world went dark. How long before they reach the core worlds? Asked Tom. At current speed, less than 2 weeks. We're trying to evacuate civilian populations, but there's nowhere to run. They're coming from all directions. The meeting ended with no real plan, only desperation. The Coalition had spent 1,000 years exploring and learning, but they had forgotten how to fight. Their ships were built for science, not war. Their people were teachers and artists, not soldiers. Back at their hidden base near Earth, Marcus, Reed watched the Coalition's desperate communications with growing alarm. Even though he was just one human on a small planet, he could see what the aliens couldn't. They were going to lose. Dr. Vale, he said during one of their secret meetings, your people are fighting the wrong kind of war. Vale looked at him with confusion. What do you mean? You're trying to fight them like this is some kind of formal battle between two armies. But these Dominion forces aren't playing by rules. They're hunters, and you're prey. Marcus had spent years as a Marine before becoming an astronaut. He understood warfare in ways that the peaceful Coalition never could. Show me their attack patterns. Dr. Vale displayed the tactical information on her screens. Marcus studied it for several minutes, his face growing more serious. See how they attack? They hit the strongest targets first. Your military bases, your government centers. They want to cut off your head and make the body die, but they're making mistakes too. What kind of mistakes? They're overconfident. They expect you to fight like every other species they've conquered, organized, predictable, following standard military doctrine. But what if you didn't? Vale didn't understand. How else would we fight? Marcus smiled grimly. Like humans. Meanwhile, the Dominion advance continued relentlessly. Their commander, Lord Cain, stood on the bridge of the flagship Death's Edge, watching Coalition worlds fall one by one. He had conquered dozens of galaxies during his long life, and this one was proving to be just as easy as all the others. Status report, he commanded. His lieutenant, a cyborg creature with half its body replaced by machines, stepped forward. 17 more systems have surrendered, my lord. Resistance is minimal. The Coalition forces are retreating rather than fighting. Lord Cain nodded with satisfaction. This was how it always went. Advanced civilizations became soft over time, losing the killer instinct that had helped them evolve in the first place. They focused on art, science, and philosophy, while forgetting the harsh realities of survival. "What about their military? Technology?" he asked. "Primitive, my lord. Their shields can barely stop our lightest weapons. Their ships are slow and clumsy. Some of them don't even have proper weapon systems. They're exploration vessels trying to fight warships. And their tactics? Non-existent. They group their ships together in large formations that make easy targets. They broadcast their positions on open channels. They even try to negotiate during battle." The lieutenant's mechanical voice carried what might have been amusement. Lord Cain had seen this pattern in every galaxy he had conquered. Peaceful species developed amazing technology for exploration and research, but they lost the ability to use that technology for war. They became sheep, ripe for harvesting. "Continue the advance," he ordered. "Focus on their industrial worlds. Once we control their manufacturing, the rest will surrender quickly." But as the Dominion fleet moved deeper into Coalition space, Lord Cain began to notice something unusual. Small groups of Coalition ships were starting to fight differently. Instead of the predictable formation attacks, they were using hit-and-run tactics. Instead of trying to protect fixed positions, they were striking at supply lines and communication relays. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "we're seeing changes in enemy behavior. Some of their forces are abandoning standard Coalition tactics." "Explain." "They're using surprise attacks, sabotage, even suicide runs against our larger ships. It's crude but effective. We've lost 3 cruisers to these new tactics." Lord Cain frowned. This was unexpected. In his experience, once a species became civilized, they lost the savage instincts needed for irregular warfare. But some Coalition forces were starting to fight like primitives, unpredictable, ruthless, willing to sacrifice themselves for small victories. "Where are these new tactics coming from?" "Unknown, sir. The attacks seem to be coordinated, but we can't track the source of the commands." What Lord Cain didn't know was that Marcus Reed was secretly transmitting tactical advice to Coalition forces throughout the galaxy. Using the communication systems on Dr. Vale's ship, he was teaching alien commanders how to think like human guerrilla fighters. "Don't fight their strength," he told Captain Cora during one encrypted transmission. "Hit them where they're weak. Destroy their supply ships, attack their communication arrays, make them afraid to spread out their forces." Captain Cora was skeptical at first. "These tactics seem dishonorable." "Honor won't save your people," Marcus replied bluntly. "The Dominion isn't interested in fair fights. They want to wipe you out. Sometimes you have to fight dirty to survive." Dr. Vale watched as Coalition forces slowly began to adopt human-style warfare. It went against everything their peaceful culture had taught them, but it was working. Dominion losses were mounting, and their advance was slowing. But even with these new tactics, the Coalition was still losing. The enemy simply had too many ships, too much firepower. They needed something more, something the Dominion would never expect. "Marcus," said Dr. Vale during one of their planning sessions, "what would your people do if Earth was attacked by such a force?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the stars. "We'd fight with everything we had. Every man, woman, and child would become a soldier. We'd use every weapon we could build, steal, or improvise. And if we couldn't, he turned to look at her, we'd make sure the enemy paid such a high price that they'd never want to fight humans again." Dr. Vale felt a chill run through her body. She was beginning to understand why her people were afraid of humans. They weren't just violent. They were willing to do anything to survive. "Would Earth help us fight the Dominion?" she asked. Marcus considered this carefully. "Maybe. But first you'd have to officially ask for help. And you'd have to be prepared for what that means." "What does it mean?" "It means your peaceful galaxy is about to learn how humans really fight." The message that changed everything arrived on Earth at exactly 3:47 a.m., Greenwich Mean Time. Marcus Reed sat in the secret communication room he had built in his garage, talking to Dr. Vale through encrypted channels. The Coalition was losing badly. 3 more worlds had fallen just that day, and the Dominion fleet was only 5 days away from the core systems. "Marcus," Dr. Vale said, her forearms moving frantically across her controls, "we need to make an official request." Captain Cora has convinced Admiral Rex that we need Earth's help. Marcus took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. Are you sure about this? Once I send this message, everything changes. Your people won't be able to pretend humans don't exist anymore. We're going to die anyway if we do nothing. At least this gives us a chance. Marcus activated his transmitter and sent a coded message to every major government on Earth. The message was simple but shocking. This is Marcus Reed, astronaut. Alien invasion coming. Need immediate response from all world leaders. This is not a drill. Within 30 minutes, his phone was ringing. Within an hour, military helicopters were landing in his backyard. Within 6 hours, he was sitting in a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, facing the most powerful leaders on Earth. General Lisa Torres, head of the U.S. Space Command, stared at the proof Marcus had provided. Video recordings of coalition ships, tactical data about the Dominion fleet, and star charts showing the invasion route. So let me understand this correctly, she said in her calm, professional voice. There's a galactic government of peaceful aliens, and they're being wiped out by space conquerors who are heading toward Earth next. That's correct, General. And these friendly aliens want our help to fight off the bad guys? Yes, ma'am. General Torres looked around the room at the other military leaders. Gentlemen, ladies, we're looking at either the biggest hoax in history or the most important moment in human civilization. The President of the United States leaned forward. Assuming this is real, what are we dealing with? How much time do we have? Marcus activated the holographic display Dr. Vale had given him. Images of Dominion warships filled the room. There, dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The enemy fleet has about 3,000 ships. Each one is roughly the size of a city, and armed with weapons that make our nuclear missiles look like firecrackers. They'll reach coalition space in 4 days, and if they win there, Earth is next. The room fell silent as world leaders absorbed this information. What about our new alien friends? Asked the British Prime Minister. What can they contribute to the fight? The coalition has better technology than us in some areas. Faster ships, better shields, advanced communications. But they have almost no military experience. They've been peaceful for over 1,000 years. General Torres smiled grimly. While we've been fighting wars for our entire existence. Exactly. They're like a university professor trying to fight a gang of street thugs. Smart, but completely unprepared for real violence. Within hours, a decision was made that would have seemed impossible just days before. Every nation on Earth began mobilizing for interstellar war. Old enemies became instant allies as humanity faced the possibility of extinction. The response was swift and terrifying in its efficiency. China began retrofitting their nuclear arsenal with coalition shield technology that Marcus provided. Russia started mass-producing modified spacecraft using hybrid human-alien designs. The United States recalled every soldier, sailor, and pilot from around the world. But it was more than just the military response that impressed Dr. Vale as she watched from her hidden base. It was how quickly human society transformed itself. Factories that made cars began producing spacecraft. Scientists who studied medicine started designing weapons. Even children were learning basic military skills. In schools, just in case the adults failed to protect them. I don't understand, Dr. Vale told Marcus during one of their conversations. How is your species doing this so fast? It would take the coalition years to organize such a response. Marcus looked out at the Earth below, where lights burned in. Every city as humans worked around the clock to prepare for war. Because we've always known this day might come, he said simply. Every human grows up understanding that someday, someone might try to destroy us. We've been preparing for this. Fight our whole lives, even if we didn't know it would come from space. General Torres took command of the Unified Earth Defense Force, coordinating with coalition officers who had been secretly brought to Earth. She was amazed by the aliens' advanced technology, but horrified by their complete lack of military thinking. Captain, Cora, she said during a strategy meeting, your people have ships that can travel faster than light, shields that can stop nuclear weapons, and sensors that can see across star systems. How did you lose so badly to the Dominion? Captain Cora looked embarrassed. We We tried to negotiate first. We thought if we explained that we were peaceful, they would leave us alone. You tried to negotiate with an invasion force? Yes. We sent diplomatic messages and offered to share our scientific knowledge in exchange for peace. General Torres rubbed her forehead. Captain, rule number 1 of warfare. When someone attacks you, they're not interested in talking. They want you dead or enslaved. Everything else is just a distraction. The cultural differences were shocking. Coalition officers wanted to minimize casualties and avoid damaging enemy ships if possible. Human commanders wanted to kill as many enemies as quickly as possible before they could kill humans. You're thinking like this is a police action, General Torres explained to a group of coalition captains. This is war. The goal isn't to arrest the bad guys or teach them a lesson. The goal is to make them stop existing. Dr. Vale watched these strategy sessions with growing amazement and fear. Humans approached warfare like scientists approached research, methodically, creatively, and without emotional attachment to conventional thinking. What if we use their own weapons against them? Suggested Colonel James Park, a human tactical expert. These Dominion ships are networked together for coordination. If we can hack their systems, impossible, said a coalition technical officer. Their security protocols are too advanced. For you, maybe, said Dr. Sarah Kim, a human cyber warfare specialist. But you're thinking like people who follow rules. Hackers don't follow rules. As the days passed, something incredible began to happen. Coalition ships started arriving at Earth, carrying refugees and the remnants of their military forces. Instead of the primitive planet they expected to find, they discovered a world transforming itself into a fortress. Orbital weapons platforms were being constructed at impossible speed. Human engineers had somehow figured out how to mass-produce coalition shield generators. The space around Earth buzzed with activity as two species worked together to prepare for the fight of their lives. Tom, the young coalition navigator, stood on the observation deck of a human space station, watching Earth's moon. The humans had built weapons on its surface that could destroy entire fleets. How did they do all this so fast? He asked Dr. Vale. Because they never stopped preparing for war, she replied. While we were exploring and learning, they were fighting and adapting. Every human invention, every piece of technology, can be turned into a weapon if necessary. On Earth's surface, factories worked day and night. But it wasn't just weapons they were producing. Human creativity was finding ways to combine coalition technology with human tactics in ways that neither species had imagined alone. Look at this, said Marcus, showing Dr. Vale a new type of fighter craft. We took your shield technology and put it on our fastest jets. Now we have ships that can fly inside enemy formations and attack from within their own defenses. That seems very dangerous for the pilots. Marcus grinned. Humans volunteer for dangerous missions. Some of our best pilots are lining up to fly. Suicide runs against Dominion command ships. Dr. Vale felt that familiar chill. She was beginning to understand that humans didn't just fight to win. They fought with a intensity that bordered on madness. As the Dominion fleet approached the solar system, Lord Cain received reports that confused him. Long-range sensors showed Earth surrounded by an impossible number of defensive installations. The primitive planet he had expected to find was bristling with weapons and shields. How many ships does this species have? He asked his intelligence officer. Unknown, sir. Our sensors are detecting thousands of energy signatures, but many of them don't match any known ship designs. And their technology level? Also unknown. They seem to be using a combination of primitive and advanced systems. Some of their weapons appear to be nuclear-based, but they're combined with shield technology we've only seen from the Coalition. Lord Cain stared at the tactical display. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. A single planet that had somehow become a military fortress in less than a week. Sir, reported his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Put it through. The face that appeared on the screen was unfamiliar. Not Coalition, but something new. The being had pale skin, dark hair, and eyes that showed no fear, only cold determination. I am General Lisa Torres of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. You have attacked our allies and threatened our world. We are prepared to defend ourselves. Surrender now, or face the consequences." Lord Cain laughed. "One primitive planet dares to threaten the Dominion? You will be destroyed like all the others." General Torres smiled, and Lord Cain felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. "We'll see about that," she said, and ended the transmission. The war for Earth was about to begin. The Battle of Sol began at dawn on a Tuesday. Lord Cain's massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find a frightened, primitive world begging for mercy. Instead, they flew into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. The first surprise came from the asteroid belt, where Marcus Reed and Dr. Vale watched from their hidden base. What the Dominion thought were simple space rocks suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Humans had hollowed out hundreds of asteroids and filled them with nuclear missiles guided by coalition targeting systems. "Contact!" shouted Tom from his station as explosions bloomed across the enemy formation. Direct hits on 12 Dominion cruisers. Lord Cain stood on his command bridge, watching his ships take damage from weapons that shouldn't exist. "How are they hiding military installations? In asteroids?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show solid rock, but they're definitely firing at us." The second surprise came from Earth's moon. The humans had built massive railguns on the lunar surface, weapons that could throw metal projectiles at nearly the speed of light. When they fired, streaks of light crossed the solar system and punched through Dominion shields like they were paper. "Impossible," Lord Cain's tactical officer reported. "They're using kinetic weapons combined with energy shields. The combination shouldn't work." But it did work, because humans didn't care about what should be possible. They only cared about what could kill their enemies. General Torres coordinated the defense from a command center buried deep beneath Earth's surface. Around her, human and coalition officers worked together, their screens showing the battle unfolding across millions of kilometers of space. "Phase 1 complete," reported Colonel Park. "Enemy formation is breaking up. They're trying to regroup." "Don't let them," ordered General Torres. "All units begin Phase 2. Let's show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The third surprise was the fighter attack. Dominion sensors detected thousands of small craft approaching at high speed, but these weren't normal fighters. Humans had taken coalition shield technology and built ships around it that could survive impossible maneuvers. Jake Reaper Morgan led the first wave, his fighter screaming through space at speeds that should have killed him. But human pilots had always been crazy, and now they had alien technology to make their insanity even more deadly. "This is Reaper 1 to all fighters," he called over the radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to kill everything that moves. No mercy, no quarter." The human fighters dove into the Dominion formation like angry wasps, firing nuclear missiles at point-blank range and using kamikaze tactics that no sane species would attempt. They flew inside enemy ships' shield bubbles, making it impossible for the larger vessels to fire without hitting their own forces. Lord Cain watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet fell into chaos. "These tactics are insane. They're destroying themselves to kill us. Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them. The enemy fighters they're ramming our cruisers. They're using their own ships as weapons." This was something Lord Cain had never encountered. Every species he had conquered fought to preserve their own lives, but humans seemed willing to die if it meant taking enemies with them. "All ships fall back to defensive formation," he ordered. "We need to regroup." But the humans weren't finished. The fourth surprise came from Earth itself. Dr. Sarah Kim and her cyber warfare team had been studying captured Dominion technology for days. While the aliens thought their computer systems were impregnable, humans approached hacking like art, creative, unpredictable, and completely willing to break every rule. "General Torres," Sarah reported, "we're inside their network. Their ships are all connected through quantum communication links. If we can corrupt the right systems, do it." What happened next would be talked about in military academies for centuries. The Dominion's own weapons turned against them as human hackers took control of their targeting systems. Dominion ships began firing on each other, their sophisticated AI systems convinced that their own allies were enemies. Lord Cain's flagship shuddered as friendly fire from his own fleet struck the shields. What's happening? Why are our ships attacking each other? The humans have somehow infiltrated our systems, sir. They're turning our weapons against us. Impossible! Our security protocols are unbreakable. But humans didn't try to break the security. They convinced it that they belonged there. They used social engineering, psychological tricks, and pure creative thinking to make the Dominion computers think the humans were authorized users. As his fleet fell apart around him, Lord Cain finally understood what he was facing. This wasn't just another primitive species ripe for conquest. These were beings who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to kill efficiently. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving another transmission from the planet." General Torres appeared on the screen again, but now she was standing in front of displays showing the burning remains of the Dominion fleet. "Lord Cain," she said calmly, "you made a mistake coming here. You thought Earth was just another target. But this planet has been preparing for this fight for millions of years. Every war we've fought, every weapon we've built, every tactic we've learned, it was all practice for this moment." Lord Cain tried to maintain his composure. "You may have won this battle, but the Dominion has thousands of fleets. We will return with—" "No, you won't," General Torres interrupted. "Because we're not just going to beat you here. We're going to make sure you never threaten anyone again." The final phase of the battle began with Marcus Reed leading a boarding party onto Lord Cain's flagship. The Marine-turned-astronaut had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of all, capturing the Dominion command ship and its leader. "Remember," Marcus told his team of human and coalition soldiers, "these beings have been conquering galaxies for centuries. They think they're superior to everyone else. Let's show them what happens when they mess with humans." The boarding action was swift and brutal. Dominion soldiers were trained to fight other civilized species who followed rules of warfare. They had no idea how to handle humans who used every dirty trick they could think of. Marcus and his team fought their way to the command bridge, where Lord Cain waited with his personal guards. The ancient conqueror looked at the human warrior approaching him, and for the first time in centuries felt real fear. "You don't know what you're doing," Lord Cain said. "The Dominion has ruled 100 galaxies. You cannot stop us all." Marcus smiled grimly. "Maybe not, but we can stop you. And when the rest of your people hear what happened here, they'll think twice before coming to our neighborhood." The capture of Lord Cain marked the end of the Battle of Sol. The surviving Dominion ships, leaderless and confused, retreated beyond the galactic rim, carrying word of a new power that fought like demons and thought like gods. In the aftermath, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the stellar dawn, looking out at the stars. The galaxy looked different now, not empty and cold, but full of possibilities. Dr. Vale joined him, her 4 arms working at a portable computer. "I've been analyzing the battle data," she said. "The Coalition lost fewer ships in this one fight than we lost in the entire war before Earth joined. That's because you weren't really fighting before. You were just trying not to lose." "And what were you doing?" Marcus thought about this for a moment. "We were trying to win. There's a big difference." Captain Cora approached them, carrying official documents from Coalition Command. "The Council has made their decision," she announced. "Earth is being offered full membership in the Helix Coalition, with equal voting rights and full access to our technology." "And in return?" asked Marcus. "You share your military knowledge and help us rebuild our defenses. The galaxy has learned that peace is only possible when good people are prepared to fight for it." Marcus nodded. This was fair. The Coalition had technology that could help humanity explore the stars. Humans had the warrior spirit that could protect both species from future threats. "There's one more thing," added Dr. Vale. "The Council wants to establish a new organization, a joint military force combining Coalition technology with human tactics. They're calling it the Galactic Defense Alliance. And they want humans to lead it? They want you to lead it, Marcus. You're the bridge between our two peoples." Marcus looked out at the stars again, thinking about the responsibility. Earth's children would carry both the burden and the honor of defending civilization itself. "All right," he said finally. "Let's get to work. This galaxy just got a lot more crowded, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next." The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic protection had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, ancient powers that had been sleeping for eons began to stir, drawn by the light of a species that refused to surrender.